Well, and continuing our discussion now with Justin Reinig, the president and CEO of Oberlin Marketing, who has been part of our panel sessions today, picking up on what we've been talking about for the Financial Security Forum's Financial Security 2030 paper. We had a great breakout panel discussion earlier today. I wanted to pick back up on what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Ask you a couple questions, from your perspective with production as, working with lots of agents and having a lot of interaction with consumers. Because in many ways, what you have to do is you have to balance the fact that you have two customers.
Yes.
Right? You have the agents have to be pleased, and then the consumers who are buying the end product have to be pleased. So as this evolving demographic age cohort moves, boomers to 65, Gen X to 65, what would you say are some insightful information, some insights you gained about the consumer, about products, just from this past, going back to last fall?
Yeah, and what I mentioned in our session was just that our friends at Deft Research put out really a shopping study from like our most recent AEP. And really what they were trying to attribute was some sort of a heat map.
Yep.
Or kind of a temperature score, right?
Interesting, right.
And it was taking the temperature of their impression of providers, networks, nurses, doctors, their agent experience, but really their experience with the whole Medicare process. And I think what they found was the year-over-year impression drop was the largest in Medicare Advantage, which wasn't a huge surprise to most of us.
Yeah, I kind of saw it coming.
Yeah. And so I think with all the disruption that happened, I think most of us think, oh, fine, there's some disruption, not a big deal. But I think what most people need to realize is like, this isn't like a 1-year disruption. Like this probably is a 2-year disruption. And I think as they started to look at some of these stats and say, maybe last year was the earthquake, but maybe this year is the aftershock. And you can't count on the fact that, oh yeah, we had a 1-year reset. We had a one-time reset. Now we have to really start thinking about like, what is going to influence the consumer trends that we have to respond to in the broker community. And so, I think one of the things we talked about even in the session as well was the VBID process.
Right.
And understanding that disruption's coming because the decision that was made with VBID, which is one of the two ways that they put supplementary benefits in Medicare Advantage products, they've kind of taken that channel away to try to lessen the amount of overuse of those benefits, the $2 billion overspend that was involved there. So what we know is line-by-line benefits are going to look different for at least another year as well.
Mm-hmm.
So what that routes to now is how many consumers are going to look at their ANOC, their annual notice of change, very closely this year, because they were already pretty sorely disappointed by the scale back. And now they're going, I'm going to take a real close look this year because I want to know if something's changing. And now what we're seeing is they're 2 times as likely to make a change during AEP if they see that one of those supplementary benefits was changed. And we already kind of know we're on the walkway to seeing those be changed this year.
Do you feel like it's a much better informed consumer? Are they inundated now with more information and advertising than ever? And or are they just becoming more proactive about staying informed and being on top of things instead of taking it for granted like they would have a few years ago and just not even paying attention to their plans?
Yeah, actually, 3 really good questions, and the answer to all 3 are yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I think they've seen what they experienced, or they felt what they experienced in the last year or 2.
Yep.
And they're going, you know what? I want to take, my fate in my own hands. I also want to find a trusted advisor, because what we've also seen is those trust scores from those carriers maybe has gone down a little bit, right? But the trust in agents or a trusted advisor has gone up.
Yep.
Ironically, because that trust is forged through moments of crisis. And so when they didn't know what to do, they turned to brokers, they turned to agents. So if they can be the source of truth and say, here's how we navigate this, it's going to be okay, but here's how we have to navigate it, that's what's inspiring trust right now. So if So like I said, I think the answer to all three was yes, because I think they know they need to be more informed.
Yep.
They know the market's changing, and they also are starting to learn where they can turn to get that expertise.
Right.
And it can be the broker community.
I feel like the more information there is out there, the more valuable and the more important that the advisor role becomes to help them sift through everything and make sense of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, if all it was a premium shopping game, you could just throw it in a quoter,
Right.
stack them up,
Right.
and choose the lowest premium.
Right.
But there's so many qualitative factors when it comes to choosing a plan. Like, how often do you go to your PCP? How many drugs are you taking?
Yeah.
What is your interaction with your healthcare experience?
Right.
And that is what takes the experience and the expertise of the broker community, is to help them sort through the qualitative part, not just the quantitative.
So taking all that into account, how would you advise an agent or an agency to better prepare and navigate these next, say, between now and 2030, these next 5 years?
Yeah. So when you asked that question in our session, I thought of like two one-liners, like right off the top of my head. And I was like, okay, these are the one-liners I need to use, right? So the first one-liner was growth creates complexity, complexity kills growth.
There you go.
So let's see if I got that right. Yeah. And I think what we're all clamoring for is, and what we understand is, when we're writing more business, when we're helping more people with more complex situations,
Yep.
we add complexity, we're adding bandwidth. So whether we are an agency of 1 or 100, we know we have more things to solve for our consumer. And we're really thinking through, well, how do I simplify the things I know I'm going to do every day so I can add bandwidth for the things I'm about to do? And here's where it matters. When we mentioned the VBID process and understanding that somebody that sees an ancillary benefit change in their ANOC this
Right.
year, they're 2 times more likely to change.
Mhm.
It's not a big deal if it's something minuscule that changes. But what about when a dental benefit goes away? What about when a per day copay for an inpatient hospital stay doubles? They're going to need the benefits that maybe a supplementary plan or an ancillary plan in the under 65 market or over 65 market can actually cure and insure up. So I think that's the challenge, is understanding that, like, we're going to have to simplify some processes so that we can make room for the bandwidth that brokers are going to need.
Yep.
And then I think
And is technology driving? Is that going to be a key driver?
technology is driving a lot of it.
Yep.
And I think so. What it's also doing is forcing a little bit of consolidation or alignment.
Yep.
Right. So I think you're seeing brokers more than ever understand that maybe they need to align their business plan or align their strategy to, whether it be an upline or just a platform, right? That they can help them align their time, because then they can spend their time on what's most valuable in the in-person experience.
Yep. Yep.
So that's what we see, definitely.
So if you're going to give an agent that's here at Medicarians one piece of advice, one takeaway, something you could bring back to the office and do on Monday that's going to improve their business and improve the results for their clients, what do you think that would be? What's something somebody could take and get to work with?
Sure. I'll give the tangible tool that we talked about in our session, and then I'll end with a quote. But the tangible tool was, I think there's so many brokers that are here, they're at home, they're listening to this, that have really never put pen to paper or, keystrokes to computer screen to identify processes. All of us want to figure out how to transition our business. All of us want to figure out how to replicate ourselves or multiply ourselves. But we haven't defined the process. We have not defined that osmosis way of learning.
Yeah.
But yet we're all talking about the buzzwords of mentorship and learning and training. If you haven't created one, how are you going to do it?
Yeah.
And so the simple piece that we talked about was, how could you break down quoting, enrollment, product knowledge, all the different things that it requires to be excellent in this industry into like the mentorship square? And the mentorship square that we identified was that I do, you watch, I do, you help.
Yeah.
You do, I help, You do, I watch. And you can, as you go around the square, you see those phases of mentorship and growth that ultimately can allow somebody to maybe transition a business or just be a replicating figure in your agency.
Well, I think that is some stellar advice and some great insight on where things are going.
Yeah.
We've got to, these next 5 years are going to be critical years in this aging transition, creating opportunities and challenges for the industry. And it's meetings like this, it's organizations, companies like ours here at Medicarians working together to drive and do all we can to bring those solutions to the forefront. And so, Justin, thanks a lot
Yeah.
for being part of today, being part of this session. And we're looking forward to ongoing what we're going to be doing all together here at Medicarians and out there in the big world, helping everybody we can. So thanks so much.
Chris, can't thank you enough. Appreciate your involvement in this. And I'll just end by one real quick thing. Like, we talked a little bit about people needing a mission in life.
Yep.
We talked about this in the session, and I think even the people in the room like felt like, okay, there's a little bit of like emotional reaction to this, which is a lot of us are looking for a mission in life. And if you're looking for a mission for the reason for what we do, we've joked about the fact that it's like humongously attractive industry. You know, there's a lot of people that were pulled in generationally or by
I think we
accident.
used the word sexy.
I wasn't sure if I was allowed to use that. But when we talked about that, I think you got to start looking mission based.
Yeah.
And if you are looking for a mission, we have it right now in this industry. And if we're willing to stand in the gap, we will now garner all the trust that every client and honestly, all of our carrier partners, all of our provider partners, everybody involved, we can be the glue in the broker community and the distribution community.
Yep.
And honestly, at a conference like Medicarians, we have all the pieces to that equation in one place.
Yep.
So it's been really neat to collaborate at a place like this. So
Yeah.
Chris, can't thank you enough for pulling this together.
Absolutely. And so thank you everybody for joining us as we went through a collection of our panelists, revisiting some of the topics that we were discussing as part of the Financial Security 2030 white paper, which is available on the Medicarians website. Just look up the Financial Security 2030 white paper, download it for yourself. We are pleased to be concluding the first year of the Financial Security Forum. Looking forward to next year and the years after that, continuing the important discussions, insights, and collaborations that are happening here amongst us all. So thank you all so very much. I'm Chris Orestis, the president of Retirement Genius, and just a great pleasure to be working with all these incredible professionals. Look forward to next year.